Hello and welcome to the Eurogamer newscast. It is the 22nd of April, 2021, and I am joined once again by Eurogamer news editor Tom Phillips. Tom, say hello.
Hey there.
And of course, Eurogamer reporter Emma Kent. Say hello, Emma.
Hiya.
Another action-packed week full of video game news, headlines coming out of our ears. But before we get onto that whole image, let's talk about what we've been playing, as is newscast tradition. I'm going to start with you, Tom. What you got?
Well,
have you even thought of something this week?
As is tradition, I've been playing a bit of Fortnite.
Of course.
There's not a huge amount going on this week. Added a new weapon, but they did also add the old map back. Except they didn't. They added the old map back in the form of a character skin, which is kind of a joke on all of the people asking for the old map to come back. That's the one that got sucked into the black hole about 18 months ago, never to return.
Oh, which is Epic trolling. Is this a troll from Epic then?
Sort of, yeah. I think that, I mean, they are very aware of this. It's become a bit of a meme now, but it's also, it's just a funny thing to highlight, because if you look at where the game was so constrained by the map 18 months ago, there's just no way that they could ever go back to how it was before they were able to add in things like vehicles, creatures, AI characters, missions, vaults, that kind of thing. It just wouldn't exist on the old map. So yeah, it is a bit of a troll.
Let it go. That's what they're saying.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah, of course you do, because it's a troll. I saw you've done a story about this, which is a lot of fun, and the like Fortnite skins are just another level. Right, as someone who plays a lot of games that sells skins, the stuff that Epic makes for it, really detailed, really imaginative. They always have custom animations. You talked about the back bling for this skin having a really fun animation whenever you get a kill.
The volcano erupts. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really, really good. And I can see why it makes so much money when they put so much effort into these skins. I cannot imagine how much money this skin is making for them as we speak. We talked about the counter I hope Epic has at somewhere in their office with all the money rolling in. And it just must be dinging.
I'd love to know which skin has brought them the most.
Yeah.
Which one has been the most profitable?
What do you reckon, Tom?
Well, you can kind of tell, because the really popular ones come back, and then the really, really popular characters like Fishstick, Peely the banana, they get re-released with new costumes and different variants.
Do you have every version of Fishstick?
I do, actually. Yeah. I mean, this is going down the rabbit hole, but there was a big Fishstick sale over the weekend, which Chris Donlan had been waiting for because his daughter really loves Fishstick. But
you hear that, Tom? His daughter.
Yeah, who's 5, I know, whatever. She's never been able to get the actual Fishstick because these things don't come on sale all the time. It's part of the big FOMO. Like, you have to get it while it's there, or it might disappear for
I hate that. We've talked about this. Disgraceful.
Yeah, so they all came back, and I was looking down the shop and I was like, yeah, got that.
You got all the fish sticks?
Yeah.
Okay. Emma, how goes the Valheim adventuring?
It's going all right. I think we've slowed down our pace a little bit because we've realised that the next boss is the last one, and we don't want to kind of complete it and then be like, what do we do now?
Oh, no.
So we're just kind of making a nice farm in the plains at the moment.
Are you just too scared?
Nah.
Is that what this is?
Take it. We normally get like a big squad together for each boss fight, so we have like 6 people going in. It does get harder. It scales to how many people you have, but normally we just kind of cruise it and everyone's just throwing some arrows in. But
right, so you just don't want to finish the game. That's what it is.
Yeah, a little bit, I guess. I'm just holding off until they bring out some more updates.
You must capture the footage for that when you finally do take that down, so we can all see what it looks like. I've been playing Call of Duty, obviously, which has just launched season 3, and it's worth talking about, I think, because in respect of Fortnite, in comparison to Fortnite, because they had the big nuke event, which everyone was expecting, and the way they did it and the way it turned out just showed how like Epic is on another level of this sort of stuff as well. Like the in-game events Epic manages to run in Fortnite just completely obliterate what Activision is able to do. And Activision, you know, the billion upon billion-dollar company with all the developers it has, and is still not able to compete on this stuff. It was essentially a limited time mode, which was playable for like a few hours, where if you died, you became a zombie. And it was supposed to be like the zombies are overrunning the map, and eventually there's no choice but to nuke it. Matches only last about 10 minutes, and there's like it's telling you like go to the exfil, you know, survive, try and extract, and you couldn't. There was no way to win. Whatever happened, you lost. You were nuked. And then at the end of the match, a short little cutscene showing a nuke coming out of a silo somewhere, and then blowing up Verdansk. Part 2, and then like they chucked everyone out of that limited time mode. That's gone now, and you're playing a nighttime version of Rebirth Island, which it tells you is set 15 minutes after the events of the nuke that you've just seen, which was a cool sort of thing to happen, I suppose. And then it's just you know, Battle Royale and Rebirth at night. And then the destruction of Verdansk Part 2 is sets up the launch of the 1984 Verdansk, which is a flashback, which is like obviously Verdansk, you know, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So some of the stuff is under construction, like the stadium is under construction in that map. And there's new points of interest. There's an array, there's a salt mine, and it's a lot cleaner, I think, in terms of visibility. It's brighter, it's greener, there's like foliage. I think it looks quite nice, but it is the same map. It's a different take on the same map. It's not a new map. And I think some players had wanted a brand new map completely, like away from Verdansk. So I'd say it's cool, I guess, but it's nothing like, you know, some of the stuff that Fortnite does. Tom, you've been in Fortnite events like this, which have been spectacular, haven't they? They've like broken concurrency records. They've like gotten the world's attention, the internet's attention, stuff like that. It's just a different beast.
Yeah, I mean, those events, they've been a lot now. And some incredible ones that come to mind include the mech versus monster fight. It was like this big kaiju battle. The black hole, obviously, Kevin the Cube exploding, the device event from about this time last year, which
the
flooded
Astro
the map.
World thing as well.
The live concerts. Really yeah. I mean, they're different beasts, and like Fortnite is just on another level to anything else in the industry. You know, you've seen other games try and do live events too and have a stab at it, but it's very, very difficult, I think, for them to do. Fortnite has thousands of people working on it 24/7 around the world, and it shows. And it's just really, really tough to do in terms of like how many people can you fit in, how well can you package these events in the game's files so that they just happen seamlessly at certain points. And Epic has struggled with this as well. Not all of its events have run smoothly. There have been times where servers have hit capacity. The most recent live event they did was actually the Marvel event, where Galactus turned up and tried to eat the map, which was spectacular. But if you weren't there half an hour early, that's it. Like the server queues were closed. On the upside, that did solve a lot of the issues. But it's something that obviously Epic is still working through as well. The last live, well, not really live thing it did was the single player campaign kicking off this new season. And it was interesting that they did that as an offline event there whenever you wanted to start playing the season to combat some of the issues that but there is a limit to the number of people that you can have playing a game at a certain time all at once, especially games which require big updates And I think that, like, looking at how it panned out this week for Warzone, as a first try, they'll be thinking, okay, that worked. Maybe we'll do this differently next time.
Yeah, they'll
and then
definitely have learned a lot.
it'll be cool to see what they do next.
Well, yeah, I mean, Verdansk is nuked. Like, the story is that it's blown up. And we're all playing 1984 Verdansk as a flashback. But, you know, ultimately that will end at some point. But they can't.
Maybe you'll just play it for 30 years until it gets back to how it was.
But then it gets nuked again.
And the
The
cycle
future is
continues.
set. Yeah, so I'd like, and then the question, you know, which I think everyone is sort of waiting to find out, is what is the plan for the next Call of Duty and how that will impact Warzone? Because you've got to believe that Activision want to leverage Warzone to help sell that game. They did it with Black Ops Cold War, and it worked incredibly well. The integration has happened. It's not been entirely successful, but it clearly made them money. You know,
Well,
will
if it
they
is,
will they do that?
as Eurogamer.net reported, set in and around World War II, then they can just do another flashback and take it back to the 1950s.
Another nuke. Keep going.
If they nuked 1984 Verdansk, then wouldn't it have been unplayable in the present, which we previously played?
Alternate timelines, Wes.
This is all very Lost.
Is this
Season
the
5.
Marvel? Is this the Marvel theory? You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they do that, because they got Price, Captain Price, as a playable character in Black Ops Cold War now, and he's Call of Duty for Captain Price. He would be a baby in 1984. This stuff plays on my mind.
Maybe he's a Time Lord. It's actually a Doctor Who thing.
Is it alternate timelines in Doctor Who? Or is it all one timeline and you go back and forth and it changes? You know what? I don't care.
The latter.
Don't care. Let's talk about some real news. I guess there is no doubt the big news of the week was Sony's dramatic U-turn with a capital U on the announced PlayStation 3 and Vita store shutdowns. This, I don't think anyone was expecting. And it was certainly dramatic. The statement is worth running through here. And this is from PlayStation boss Jim Ryan, who admitted, "It's clear that we made the wrong decision here." He says, happy that we will be keeping the PlayStation Store operational for PS3 and PS Vita devices. PSP commerce functionality will retire on July 2nd. So PSP is dying, but PS3 and PS Vita have a stay of execution. And here's the statement that I want to discuss with you guys today, because I think it's really interesting. When we initially came to the decision to end purchasing support for PS3 and PS Vita, it was born out of a number of factors, including commerce support challenges for older devices and the ability for us to focus more of our resources on newer devices where a majority of our gamers are playing on. We see now that many of you are incredibly passionate about being able to continue purchasing classic games on PS3 and PS Vita for the foreseeable future. So I'm glad we were able to find a solution to continue operations. Now, the thing I want to discuss with you is this line where he says, "We see now that many of you are incredibly passionate about being able to continue purchasing classic games on PS3 and PS Vita." I'm not sure that's what this was about, to be honest. I'm not passionate about buying your old shit, Sony. That's not really what anyone was upset about. It was about game preservation and the continued existence of games. Emma, what do you think of their reasoning? What do you think of the U-turn, and what do you think of the explanation?
Yeah, I guess I was surprised that they did U-turn, because I feel like this was response, because it was kind of quite predictable. And I don't know, like, to then be like, oh wow, I can't believe this was really unpopular, we're actually going to change it. It's kind of like, how did you not know that was going to happen? But yeah,
look at the world of football. Nobody seems to be able to plan to understand anything.
I knew
that. Is it just people in boardrooms just forgetting? I don't know how humans work. Like, no, these numbers.
Yeah. Why are you so upset? I don't get it. What's wrong with you?
Well, Well, and yeah, that response, I guess, is again a very like, oh, they must want to buy things. That's it. It cannot be for anything else.
That's not compute.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even if they think that's what the reason is, I'm glad that they've changed their minds on it.
Do we think Sony changed their mind because of the backlash entirely? Because it was, worse than they could have ever imagined. Is that what we actually think has happened here? Or is there something else going on?
I don't see any other reason why they would change their mind except for the fact that it was a massive PR blunder that blew up in their faces and put them in a very negative light. And when when you've got roughly equal feature set to Xbox, and Xbox has roughly equal feature set for opposite PlayStation, it's these PR wins and losses that decide in the court of public opinion which format is winning and losing. However wrong that might be, however few people this actually might influence, that is what we talk about. That is what websites report on. That is what people talk about when they are saying what's going on with Xbox and Sony. We saw this earlier this year with Microsoft's U-turn on free games with gold stuff and raising the price of Xbox Live Gold, which to me is a much bigger issue than the U-turned on it as well because of the court of public opinion. And it's interesting to me with that PlayStation thing, there's the whole, we'd love, you really want to give us more money? Okay, we'll do that. We'll let you do that. The stuff before that about, the reasons that we originally announced for doing this thing were blah, blah, and blah, blah. We're now going to let you do it because of what we decided. And both of those blah blahs are, we don't want to spend the money on this thing anymore. And the thing that
it's
they're
not
now
making
doing,
the money, it's costing them money. It's that simple.
It's a loss leader. But when the loss leader becomes so loss leading, like they decided, oh, we're just going to cut it out. The U-turn is people complained because they like this loss leader being there for the reasons of game preservation. And so Sony is just going to have to take the financial hit. So the things that it was talking about, like why it wanted to get rid of it, both of those things come down to money. And the reason that it's staying around is people really cared about it. So they're just going to throw some more money at it and the problem will disappear.
For now, like this, eventually these stores will shut down.
Eventually everything will shut down, Wes. Eventually we'll shut down. I feel that day
last that long.
I feel that day coming for me sooner every day. Nothing lasts forever.
That's a grim.
But like,
thanks.
Yeah, like it kicks the can down the road, and all of this will just simmer down, and people will forget it, move on, do something else.
So Emma, are we typical news consumption animals, and are we just, that's it then? Forget yesterday's news. They've basically made the problem go away, or are there longer lasting ramifications for what's happened?
That's a good question. I don't know if they'll try it again in a few years or something. Maybe they think that people will calm down. I think the same arguments are still going to be there about game preservation. Maybe people will feel slightly less strongly about it. I don't know if there are more young kids who don't remember it and they're like, oh, whatever.
So they have to wait for old people to die, like me and Tom, which is going to happen soon.
Yeah, maybe in 50 years.
Here's the thing: at no point did Sony say game preservation is important, and we are actually addressing the root of this issue, which is the fact that we have set up these stores to a point where they're difficult to maintain after a time, and we are now having to, consider switching them off. That's not a conversation that other platforms are having, where you can still buy an Xbox original big Xbox game, no problem. You can still buy an Xbox 360 game, no problem. And there's absolutely no expectation that the ability to buy and play those games is going to disappear down the road, because all of that architecture just seems to have been like plugged in a way that's forward looking. There isn't any expectation that the way that things work on PlayStation is going to change. It just seems like they've not pulled out the life support cord. And so it was disappointing to hear in that statement that there was no like keeping it around. And actually, we see what you're saying about game preservation. And maybe there's something there for us to do in terms of the way we program our stores so that this isn't going to ever need to be an issue. We will keep these things around because we've heard that it's important. None of that at all.
Maybe being optimistic. They're thinking about this behind the scenes, but don't want to say anything about it. But
I hope they are. Yeah.
This touches on a wider issue about game preservation, doesn't it? Which is, and it's a big deal because games have a shelf life, and when they're gone, they're gone. Like you turn the servers off in a game, it's gone forever if it's an online only game. Outriders, which came out recently, is an always online game for some reason. Eventually, it will stop working, whether you want it, whether you bought the game or not. When they turn the servers off, that's it, it's done, unless they somehow make it playable offline. So, and there's no what I think this whole issue is highlighted, there's no collective games industry effort to preserve its games. The idea that after a certain amount of time, a game just goes in a vault somewhere and people can access it, forever, theoretically. And I think that, the industry is still relatively young. This is probably a conversation that's gonna, not gonna like a meaningful conversation that is gonna happen, for a while. But at some point, the industry is gonna have to face up to its disappearing history, and the fact that you just, some of this stuff is going to disappear forever, which would be very sad. Let's talk about Xbox briefly, and we did touch on this earlier a little bit, but this week Microsoft announced its previous promise, so it had announced this, that it was going to do this, to ditch Xbox Live Gold subscription requirements for free-to-play multiplayer titles on its consoles. That came into effect this week. So we knew this was coming, but we didn't know exactly when, and it's happened. Microsoft was the only one of the big three console makers still insisting on a paid subscription to play free-to-play games. And this impacts some of the biggest games in the world. It impacts Fortnite, which is now actually free to play on Xbox, and Call of Duty Warzone, now actually free to play on Xbox. I'll start with you, Tom. Bit of background. There's some context and history to how this came about, which I think is really fascinating because it shows how much these companies are caring about what people think about them these days. So how did it come about initially?
Yeah, the initial way that this was highlighted, and actually everyone sort of took a moment and thought, yeah, that is weird that this is still a thing, is when, as we just mentioned earlier this year, Microsoft U-turned on the fact that they were about to raise the prices of Xbox Live Gold, which is their way of gatekeeping online multiplayer and online matchmaking services and all of the online parts. Like, PlayStation has this, Nintendo Switch has this now. They were trying to raise the price. People didn't like it. They saw it as a push towards Xbox Game Pass, making gold so expensive that you might as well just get Game Pass anyway because it's such a good deal. And it was at that moment that people were like, oh, well, and gold still, because people were like, maybe I'll just cancel my gold.
How did we forget?
We just did. And PlayStation stopped doing it a while back. Switch, their online subscription is relatively new, and from the off they never charge for.
You got problems when Nintendo has a better online policy than you do.
Very outdated. Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, like back in the day, and Xbox was the only one to do this. They required Xbox Live Gold for you to be able to watch Netflix on your 360. Do you remember that?
I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, and there was this whole time ago. And iPlayer took ages to come to 360 because you can't charge people for iPlayer if they've got a TV license in the UK. So it took years for it to become this like one game on 360 that you didn't need gold to play through an app. Then they got rid of that, but this really legacy old requirement just was still hanging around earlier this year.
I've got this image in my head of Microsoft having forgotten that they'd done this. And when this whole backlash about the price blew up and people started pointing out, they were like, shit, are we still doing that?
It did feel like that. Yeah. There were a few people like, it took me by surprise. I was like, I remember tweeting at the time, like, I can't believe that this is still a thing. And you're trying to raise the price? Fuck off. Like, and then they were like, it was almost like they'd just been caught with their hand in the candy jar, and they were like, oops, yeah, you're right, that sucks. Court of public opinion, let's get rid of it. Big win.
Well, they have. Emma, you are an Xbox Series S owner. I feel like I ask you this every week, but I can never remember. Are you an Xbox Live Gold subscriber? Are you paying custom?
I've got the ultimate 12-month.
So that includes it.
Yeah.
Right. So this doesn't really change anything for you.
No, I'm just like, oh, yeah. Okay. That's good.
We all forgot. What I think it likes what this change means is there are some huge games that are now genuinely free to play on Xbox. We talked about Fortnite and Warzone, but it's not just that. Apex Legends is now genuinely free to play. Apex Legends just said they've got 100 million players. Well, they're going to get a few more now, I think. Rocket League, massive game, now is actually properly free to play. Destiny 2, Roblox, which is probably actually the biggest game that we've mentioned. Now all genuinely free to play. Warframe. There's this long list of games that are free to play games that are now actually free to play, and
they're decent games.
There's some big stuff. I imagine they're all happy, the makers of those games, because now they're probably getting a few more players. A few more, more players tends to be more revenue through microtransactions. Microsoft gets its 30% cut of all of those. So, yeah, I feel like Phil Spencer just forgot.
That's a really, really good point about the microtransactions, because when they will have been looking at how much of a PR win is this versus how much money are we going to lose, which I think is the same conversation that Sony had this week with Vita and PS3, they will have said, if we open the gates to even more people who don't have Xbox Live Gold coming into Fortnite, that 30% cut that we get, I bet it balances out. So I just don't want us to be painting too altruistic a picture of any company when the bottom line is very important.
To be clear, I do not think Phil Spencer forgot. All right, just so everyone understands, I was joking.
It's under a pile of papers on his desk. It's like, oh.
I'm pretty sure
he was too busy rearranging his shelves.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, they didn't forget. For the record, God, now I feel like terrified that people are going to think that I actually believe Phil Spencer forgot where all the money was coming from. In related Xbox news, there's been a couple of stories that have come up this week that I think are worth briefly going through. Discord ends acquisition talks with Microsoft, but the $10 billion offer could be rekindled in the future. If you remember, there was strong rumors, strong reports, I don't think there's any doubt about them, that Discord was talking to various companies about selling up, and one of those companies was Microsoft, and $10 billion was on the table. $10 billion just doesn't sound like anything to me now. Like, it's like they just dropped nearly that on Bethesda. What's $10 billion to Microsoft? Doesn't feel like anything. But apparently Discord wants to start to not be bought and instead go for to sell shares on the stock market. Tom, you wrote the story. What do you think is the next step for Discord now that they've turned Microsoft down?
Yeah, I still think 10 billion is a lot. I would love a 10 billion check if anyone wants to send it to me. Microsoft is a $2 trillion company, so
trillion.
Yeah, it can splash the cash.
What is $1 trillion? I don't even know what that looks like.
It's a lot of zeros. Discord. So Discord has never made a profit. They're a company that. Yeah, they're a company which
$10 billion.
It's one of those like companies like Uber.
They've never made a profit, and they've just turned down a 10 billion offer from Microsoft. And the only logical reason that I can think of for that is because they can make more money for themselves by floating on the stock market, or if down the line they decide not to do that, the Microsoft offer is still on the table. They've just said at the moment that's not something that we're going to do right at this point in time.
Okay. I don't think anything meaningful is going to change the way Discord is working at the moment. So we'll just continue to use it as we have been doing. And in other Xbox news, there was an update this week that lets you see which games you can quick resume. That sounds boring when I say it out loud, but that's actually quite exciting, and people were like actually pumped about this. Tom, again, because you wrote this story, and I feel like you're just an Xbox power user at this point. What exactly has changed here? How does it work now?
Thanks for calling me a power user and not an Xbox.
I should have called you an Xbox.
Eat mob. You can now see on your dashboard which games have quick resume states. So at the moment, I'm currently playing through BioShock Ultimate Collection HD 4K edition, or whatever it's called, on Xbox Series X, and it magically reappears. And I sometimes forget that that's saved. If I was in a position where I have not much hard drive space left and I was looking to free some up, I could go down to, oh, this has save states on the hard drive. I don't really care about a quick resume for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm not playing it that much until the expansion comes out. I'll bin off that save state and it will free up some space. You can also just generally look at which games support quick resume, because not all of them do. But in my experience, even if they do, it doesn't always work. So
right, okay.
It works all the time, some of the time.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I remember that line. That's good. Okay, so nothing mind-blowing here, but it sounds like just good stuff. And last week we were talking about the difference between the PlayStation in terms of the feature set and what it's got going, and Xbox Series X and S. And I think there's still Xbox is a ways ahead with this stuff. And Sony is still playing catch up, getting the PlayStation where it needs to be. And this is just another thing that they've got that Sony could probably do with. Okay, let's move on to Apex Legends, because as much as we're talking about Fortnite, as much as we're talking about Call of Duty, which also just announced 100 million players, lots of Battle Royale player number willy waving this week. Apex Legends is incredibly popular, like enormously popular, and it's about to have its a moment of its own. Emma, you are resident Apex Legends super fan, and by that I mean you're just really good at it. What is happening?
Well, Apex has been doing pretty well the last few weeks. We've had the Switch version recently. There's been news about mobile actually kind of starting to get there. Like, they're doing some regional betas in like the Philippines and India, where there's a really big mobile audience. That's probably why. And yeah, the 100 million player base thing. So the next stage that they're talking about and hyping up quite a lot is the new season, which they're actually not even like labeling. I think it should be season 9. They're calling it Apex Legends Legacy, and it's bringing in a bunch of Titanfall lore. The new legend called Valkyrie is the daughter of a pilot from Titanfall 2, but one of the bad guys who's an Apex predator. And I believe you kill him in Titanfall 2 as well, so feel bad, you know. You killed this girl's dad. But anyway, yeah. She basically fashions, with the help of Rampart, another legend, like a kind of jetpack from the back of this like North Star Titan, which is her dad's Titan. And that's what she's going to use in the Apex Legends games. We don't really know what her abilities are or how she's going to play, but I imagine she'll be, you know, jetpacking around and hovering. And it looks like she can shoot missiles from it as well. So that sounds like, yeah. If you really get annoyed by like the Horizon players who just go up on their little teleport things and snipe down, I imagine this is going to be more the same. So
right, so there's a lot to unpack there. First off, I didn't realize that Apex Legends was like properly connected to the Titanfall universe.
Yeah,
like it's actually timelined. Their timelines are aligned, right? Yeah,
so it's like based in the Outlands, and it's like it's in the Titanfall universe, but it's like away from some of the other stuff that happens in this series. I apologize, I haven't played Titanfall games. I need to. I keep saying I need to, and I never get around to it. Maybe this will finally make me do it. But yeah,
They
and
are
they
very
keep
good.
bringing in little bits of lore. They've been like throwing in little kind of character references for a while now, and they were saying, oh, we're going to bring in more of the Titanfall stuff, because obviously Titanfall 3 got canned in favor of doing Apex Legends, so a lot of the Titanfall fans are like, oh, we want more Titanfall. So I think this is a way of, you know, appeasing them a little bit and like, you know, bringing it back. You're still not going to play in a Titan though, so
I was
if you wanted
literally about to ask you.
no. So yeah, the wall running in the actual Titans, which is the main kind of gameplay mechanics in Titanfall, still not happening because, well, the wall running's explained because it's just really complicated and hard for people in a battle royale to keep an eye on people bouncing around. They did bring it back for a Halloween event, so you could be a zombie in wall run. And then the Titans, they said that they tried to experiment with them like very, very early on in Apex Legends, but to make it fair, like they'd have to make them really easy to destroy, and then apparently they just felt like wet cardboard bags, I think it was described as. So they just decided to get rid of them. And yeah, with this new legend, she's got a bit of a Titan on her back, but it's not a Titan.
You know what they can have this one for free. You know what the solution to that design challenge, that Titan design challenge is? Just make everyone a Titan. So you can have that.
Yeah, but then everyone still has to be down fast, I guess.
Well, no, you just it just lasts for ages.
Yeah, you just have battle royals where we're just standing there and
firing
entire clips in.
Yeah. Okay, so that sounds pretty cool. We sort of know that Titanfall 3 isn't really on the cards. Respawn has got a lot on its plate. It's got Apex Legends, which is a huge game, and they're trying to create content in a, you know, as much as possible. Like, you have to feed the beast with these games, don't you? People are hungry for content all year round. Look at what, you know, Fortnite is doing. That's what they're up against. It's hard enough as it is. But, you know, alongside that, they're making Titanfall, Apex Legends Mobile, and they said in their announcement that they've created their own team inside Respawn to do this. They're partnering with someone as well, but they have a team for this, so that's internal. And they're making Star Wars
Fallen Order. Yeah,
Jedi Fallen Order 2, which is going to be a huge undertaking.
I imagine, yeah, they want it to be massive as well. You know, like the first game was so successful, they just want to build on that.
So all of a sudden, Respawn is like one of the biggest doing so much AAA developers around. It's got a huge amount of play. I find it very hard to imagine that Titanfall 3 can somehow emerge.
Yeah, I think they'd have to get all the Star Wars done, and to be honest, they might just be on that train now. I think keep doing more Fallen Order. But,
yeah, and if they're bringing more Titanfall stuff into Apex Legends, then you can see that that's the sort of what that's their fix, isn't it?
That's their way around it. I think at one point they were saying they were hoping to do more stuff with like different game modes in Apex Legends. They haven't actually detailed what that would be, but kind of using Apex as like a hub to then do more experimental stuff rather than just battle royale. Was basically how they described it. We haven't really heard anything more about that, but they've definitely been getting quite creative with some of the game modes lately, and I'm wondering if they're like testing out ideas and things like that. If they did, gosh, that'd be quite something. But I don't think we're going to be seeing them in the battle royale for sure.
Okay, well, we talked about Star Wars. Let's keep talking about Star Wars. This week, we ran a story about Knights of the Old Republic remake and the revelation that it's been developed by Aspyr, which is it's not really well known, I would say, but it's known within the industry as a pretty cool port studio. But this is certainly, I would say, their most high-profile project. And Tom, you wrote this story. You know a bit about what's going on here. What can you tell us?
Yeah, as you say, it's a big project for them. If you have played a big game that's come out on Mac recently, that's been ported over from PC to Mac, there's a good chance that that studio is the one that did all the sort of porting work behind it. They're kind of a really talented studio that takes trusted big brands and then brings them to other platforms. They do this with iOS, Android projects as well, Linux and are just trusted to do a great job that doesn't mess things up. Usually, they brought over a bunch of Star Wars games to Switch recently as well. So yeah, the project is KOTOR, the old BioWare Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1. But the whispers are, and have been for a while, that this is going to be not just their typical project, which is just dumping what is now a very old game on new platforms, but that they've built up a team within the studio and that they're actually doing a more substantial job with it. There was a report back in January that it might have elements from KOTOR 2 put in there as well. And that this would bring in a lot of these story threads, which, you know, KOTOR's still revered today for its storytelling, even if the visuals don't have dated over time, that they would be bringing those into the Disney Star Wars canon, making them official, as all Star Wars projects are now. And that would be a cool thing.
That's an understatement. As a KOTOR fan, that is hugely exciting. Like what you're talking about is more of a remake than a remaster. Like and
which is good because I think it needs
KOTOR needs it. Yeah, like in my mind, KOTOR is the one true Star Wars game. But if you go back and play it now, which I did last year, it plays like ass. Like the controls are just. It's not a video game that anyone would like enjoy playing, like the actual process of holding a controller or playing it. The story is still obviously fantastic. The writing is good, and the atmosphere is tremendous. Some of the themes that they touch on in that game are just super cool, up there with the best Star Wars has ever done in anything. So I think this is hugely exciting. I'm delighted to hear that there's more to it than just, you know, port.
Yeah, I'm really excited by it as well, because I've tried to, you know, play the original before and I've just found it too difficult. It was just too much of a leap back. I was like, ooh.
do you not know the story?
No.
Oh, wonderful.
And I never want to know.
What? Yes, I really do hope that you don't get that spoiled for you.
I probably will.
I really
if you're a
hope
games
not.
journalist, you don't have spoiler-free experiences ever again. That's it.
I really do hope for you that you come into this game without having been spoiled, because I'm not you know, overselling this when I say it's got one of the best Star Wars stories. When you get invested, and then, you know, you get towards the end and you get the revelations, you know, as you do in Star Wars movies. This is up there, really is. I would love to talk to you about it. I will not spoil it for you. But anyone who's watching this who's played KOTOR will know what I'm talking about. And actually, KOTOR 2 is a fantastic game that had severe issues through time constraints and development constraints and some of the pressure that they were under to make that game. So there was a lot that wasn't as good. But if they can sort of bring some of that into this, that would be really, really exciting. And then make it all canon. I mean, basically, the KOTOR movie is, I think, you know, is what I'm thinking of, which I think people had been sort of talking about.
Yeah, I think the rights were sold, but, you know, these things take time. I mean, for me, the dream one day would be that this comes out as a success, and then we get the fabled KOTOR 3.
The fabled KOTOR 3. Is it fabled, maybe, Tom, or is it real?
It's not real at the moment. I mean, yeah, a lot of people have wanted it to happen over the years, and I think there are definitely people in BioWare that would love it to happen. But it's just a matter of, is it the right time for these things?
Yes, the answer is yes, it is the right time for these things. Why would they do this with KOTOR now, unless it was that classic game publisher thing of, we're just going to remake that old thing and put it out there so everyone gets excited about this old thing again, and then we bring out the new one. I mean, they're literally doing it with Mass Effect, the same company. So,
well, yeah, although this isn't BioWare, but I take your point.
No, it's EA. It's EA.
I take your point. I'd say the difference there is that BioWare is working on Mass Effect 5 or whatever it ends up being called, and the trilogy remaster is definitely leading into that. Whereas for Star Wars, there is no KOTOR 3 in development right now. It's a whole different time period that if you come into Star Wars really in the last 15 years, you just don't that's not been the focus of where the franchise is at right now. So they want to start small and see where it goes, and hopefully it's popular.
Right, here's my suggestion. EA tasks Obsidian via Microsoft with making KOTOR 3. There you go. You can have that for free.
I can't wait for the newscast in like 5 years' time where we're like, maybe this will come out on PlayStation. What do we think? And we won't.
Can you imagine that? That would just be carnage on the internet if it did that. Okay, exciting times for Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. Emma, I want to talk to you about Cyberpunk because it's become a bit of a tradition for us to find out what's been going on in that game. In the absence of actual news from the CD Projekt, that doesn't mean that interesting things are not happening in the world of Cyberpunk, and you continue to unearth these cool stories. This week, you wrote a story about modders trying to recreate some of what Cyberpunk promised back at its famous E3 reveal, specifically E3V, which sounds like a tetanus shot. What is going on here? What are modders actually doing?
Right, so this has been an ongoing effort that I've been keeping an eye on over the last few months, is that people have been finding the old textures and meshes for E3V, which is the version of V that was shown in 2018 in the demos for E3 when it looked very good and everyone was very excited about Cyberpunk. And they've been creating ways to bring that back into the game through mods. So it is quite funny, actually. One of the first ones, which was a female V, they wanted to put her face texture on, and the easiest way to do that was to kind of convert her face into a hat. So you would wear this hat in game, and then your face would be like V, and you're like, oh yeah. I think they finally updated that mod so that it just is the face, and then you've got a head slot free to wear sunglasses or whatever. But before that, it was headers hat thing. Yeah, so
things are weird.
Yeah, no, it's weird. The workarounds are hilarious. It's just it's odd to look at them. But yeah, they found the face textures, haircuts. They've been restoring both female and male look. The one for the guy required some custom work and some stuff that they found in the files. They've also been doing clothes, things like that. One of the really interesting mods makes some of the quests that didn't make it to release playable. So there are 4 quests that are accessible in debug mode if you know how to do it. And apparently 2 of them are in pretty good condition and you can actually play them through. And then 2 of them are pretty buggy. I think some of them have car chases as well. And, you go to the car and then it bugs out.
Yes, but Cyberpunk always struggled with anything in a car, to be honest. Yeah,
the car chases are not that great. I think you just realised eventually, it's weird. It was oh, you have to shoot these people a certain amount, otherwise you fail the car chase. And, things just going to happen on rails pretty much for it anyway. So maybe that's not a huge loss. But anyway, if you're curious to see some of the gigs that didn't make it to the final thing, then you can do it with that mod. It's called Cut Gigs.
Related, there is a mod that has had some stories written about it that adds wall running to Cyberpunk, and this is another thing that they showed off as a feature that they cut before the game came out. And it wasn't just wall running; it was the idea that you could stick your mantis blades into the wall, sort of hang, and have that kind of Batman, Arkham Knight, observe, hack even from up there, jump down, assassinate, all this kind of stuff. That all got completely cut. They just ditched it. But you've actually tested this mod, and it turns out it's not really working.
Yeah, I had some issues with that mod where I would kind of do the jump thing, and then I would just kind of skate infinitely and then eventually crash into something, and it would be the ground, and then I'd die. So it wasn't really wall running.
Sounds like Cyberpunk.
Yeah, that mod needs a little bit of work. To be fair, the mod creator just said this is mainly proof of concept and it's work in progress. And I believe that someone with the time and the modding ability could potentially reintroduce the Mantis Blade thing, so that you could actually use it for wall running and sitting and perching and shooting people and stuff like that.
I mean, what I think all of this stuff highlights is that people are trying to go back to the promise of what Cyberpunk was before it came out. They still want that. Clearly, there was there's still a desire for what that game promised to be, and people are trying, hacking the game to bits to try and get it to resemble that promise.
Yeah, no, it's a really popular type of modding. I've seen so many mods trying to do like E3 lighting and make it look like the shading is the same as the demos and stuff like that. It's not like they've actually got that from the files, they're just trying to recreate it. But also the sheer amount of cosmetic mods is remarkable. Everyone is just so keen to actually look cool in the game. I've spent hours just like modding my V to just give her, like cybernetic arms and cool, like,
that was a really disappointing part of that game when it came out.
It's like one of the crucial things about Cyberpunk is being able to like mod yourself and like change yourself and make yourself metal and stuff like that. And it was really basic, and you'd walk around and like the NPCs would be dressed better than you, and you'd be in some kind of like old tank top and like your dad's.
But you could do it under the hood, because there was like you could mod yourself to give yourself different abilities. For sure, and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just a menu screen.
Yeah,
literally a menu screen. There's nothing to it. It was just, and it wouldn't show. Yeah,
you couldn't get a haircut, could you?
No. You still can't. Unless
it's like lockdown.
Yeah, it's weird. That one was especially weird, actually.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked so much about Cyberpunk in the past, but if they wanted to get the game closer to that original vision, that would be part of it, like just customization, even vehicle customization, which they did. Looked like the game was getting that. It didn't turn out that it was getting it. Okay, we should wrap up. On what has been another busy week of video game news with our traditional mug check. Tom, seeing you sipping away at something.
Yeah, so this is a Legend of Zelda mug, and it's got stained glass windows which reveal themselves when they have hot water in. So at the beginning of this video, it had some very nice Wind Waker stained glass designs. And because I have now drunk the tea, there is a Triforce in them.
Oh, wow.
But they've gone away again. Angles. So I tell you what, I'll bring this along next week. And at the start, I'll show it when it's got hot tea in, and you'll be able to see more.
Wow, that's really good. You can never slag me off about my Street Fighter mug again, because it basically did that. And I felt like such a nerd when I showed that off. That's very impressive. Very impressive. Emma?
Oh, mine's slightly less exciting than that, to be honest. It's just a very simple little Star Wars mug. I thought it was appropriate for...
X-Wing.
Oh, right.
Nice.
That is cool. What is that?
It's the Last Jedi one specifically.
The last Star Wars film.
Yeah, it was good, wasn't it?
What is the writing? Is that Star Wars language?
I think so. Yeah,
it's by Rian Johnson, I think.
All right, let's move on. Because when I am doing the newscast, I'm in my element.
Oh, wow.
I've been thinking about that joke.
You've been planning it. You're just workshopping it in your head.
Right. So this is what we're going to do. This is what I've been thinking of. A quick test. We're going to do a very quick test, little quiz to close the show.
Oh no.
Okay. See how clued up you are on your elements. I'm obviously not going to read the front. You can see that. Not that I could. Let's do CL.
Chlorine?
Chlorine. Well done. 1-0. I'm trying to pick ones that I know. PB.
It's lead, isn't it?
Oh, equalizer. This is good. We'll do best of 5. AL.
Aluminium.
2-1. They're too easy. HE.
Helium.
2-2. Right. Oh, this has worked out better than I could have possibly imagined. Right. I got a bit hard one. So you're actually thinking. Gosh, it's like Mass Effect this. Okay, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
PT.
Plutonium?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
can I have another guess, or is it
Yes,
Emma's?
yes, just
Platinum?
yeah, he's got it.
oh,
3-2. Well played. I mean, you didn't have it there, Emma, I didn't think. So it wasn't in your head that you
no.
so that was fair enough.
You should call that bury the lead. Bury the lead.
My
Platinum
joke's better
hits.
than that. Wow. GG's. Thanks for that, guys. Enjoyed. You weren't expecting that, were you?
A little
No.
pop quiz. It's
No,
just
I
taking me
wanted
straight back
it
to
to
like
be
chemistry
surprised.
GCSE.
Yeah,
You're
I wanted
like,
it to be surprised. You couldn't practice because I knew you would if I
I
told
wanted
you.
you to say K, which is potassium, which is a really awkward
Emma,
one.
it's too late. It's too late. This is really burning you up inside. I can
Yes.
see it.
Like when potassium is exposed to water.
You are the potassium. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.